Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Driven by Dreams. Today we have a special guest, Noemi. Noemi is the founder and CEO of Alcohol. With a background in founding and scaling seven-figure businesses, Noemi shares her journey of learning and growth to help others build their business. Let's jump into our conversation with Noemi. Thank you for joining us and enjoy the episode.
If anyone's getting no's and no's and no's, just know that it only takes one yes to turn everything around. So I started my business with zero experience, zero contacts, and zero idea what to even do next. So there I am on my own, working alone, trying to figure out how to even grow a business.
Hi, Noemi. It's great to connect with you today. I'm excited to hear more about your journey. Can you start by sharing a little about yourself?
I'd love to. Well, thank you so much for having me on, Anishka. I really appreciate it. So I'll share a little bit about myself. So my journey started in Hungary. I was born and raised in Budapest, and my parents decided to immigrate to first South Africa, and then we came to the USA. So I was mainly working in the corporate world. I graduated college. I started in working in accounting and some finance jobs. And a little bit into my corporate career, I started having this feeling that something is missing in my life. And as I started searching, what is missing? Do I have to start my own business? And I got a few opportunities to start a business. And and I can go into more detail about these later, but my journey to entrepreneurship basically started with a business in the water filtration industry. I started building a business. At first, it was very lonely, but then I started meeting other entrepreneurs. I started getting myself involved in the circles of entrepreneurship, reading business books, and that's really when my business started taking off and getting some revenue going. So that's why I love learning anything about entrepreneurship, talking about entrepreneurship, mindset, success habits. I'm really obsessed with that topic because that really helped me succeed. So
Wow, that's a great start to your journey. How you use these ways to learn and grow. So, what were the biggest challenges you faced in the early stages of your business, and how did you overcome them?
gosh, that's such a great question. So I started my business with zero experience, zero contacts, and zero idea what to even do next. So there I am on my own, working alone, trying to figure out how to even grow a business. And nothing was happening. Really, I was not getting customers, and I felt like, am I actually cut out to do this? Am I meant to be an entrepreneur, or is this just some, pipe dream that I had and I should just go back, get a job again? And I had a turning point where I basically said, okay, I'm gonna commit fully, jump into this. There's no plan B, burn all the boats, so to speak. And all I'm gonna focus on is how I can get this business successful. And what it took is I had to make a lot of new friends. I started getting entrepreneurs friends. I started going to networking groups. I read a lot of books. I went to seminars. And slowly I started seeing a lot of change in how I was growing my business with more confidence, more knowledge, more support from friends. And that's when I reached my seven-figure revenue stream after really I made that shift in about 2 years later.
Wow, how that's great how you use those community and were able to grow so much from it. So, when you faced failures, how did you bounce back from them?
Yeah, I mean, facing failures is such a part of entrepreneurship, and one part of entrepreneurship, one trait of entrepreneurs is how we bounce back from failure because failure is every single day. it feels like. There's something that, in a corporate job, you have a boss and you have different tasks that somebody has already done and taught you how to do. In entrepreneurship, you don't have a boss or anybody tell you how to do their tasks. You have to figure out the best way to do them. And when problems arrive, you solve the problems. And so, I made a lot of mistakes. I still do. And whenever that, some of those are failures. If I make a mistake and a client deal doesn't close, or something happens in the business that it's considered a small failure, and it's just I don't even think about it anymore. It's just like I go into solving mode. I don't think about like, oh no, it's a failure. I just say, let's get into how we're going to solve it and think from those terms. I think that's most important.
How did you get into this problem-solving mindset? It's great for moving forward, but it can be kind of hard to face failures that way. So how did you get into that?
That's such a great question. Um, so I think some of it is um, just the way I grew up. So just moving from country to country, I did grow up with some adversity in my life that I had to overcome, become different. Part of when I was 12, I had to move to another country. I didn't speak any of the language. I had to learn it from scratch. And little things like that that created adversity in my life actually became very beneficial because I experienced challenging things and I learned the skills on how to solve those things. And they stayed with me as traits. So some of them were really developed by just my life circumstances, and some of them I had to develop intentionally because I could see my own weaknesses when my business wasn't growing, and I would say, well, I'm not taking enough risk because I'm scared that this will not work out. And then I had to look at that and work on myself and intentionally create a different belief system myself.
What inspired you to turn to entrepreneurship, and what were your first experiences with it?
Did you say what inspired me to join entrepreneurship?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Entrepreneurship. So okay, so I was working a corporate job and I was basically like, okay, so here I am working corporate and I go visit my dad in Florida and I'm at the airport coming back and we sit down and we're chatting while my plane is arriving. And all of a sudden, I burst into tears. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" Like I didn't know. And I said, I'm I just don't know if I chose the right career. And now I don't know what to do. I feel stuck because I went to school for accounting and finance and I'm in this field and I am not happy and I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. And we talked and I went back home and that was a turning point where I really started thinking, how can I do something that I really enjoy and still make money? So that was my first um, thinking into how can I be an entrepreneur.
When did you realize that you enjoyed entrepreneurship and you wanted to go in that direction?
When I first started my business, I even when it was not successful, there was nothing going on. It was just like I had to get customers. There weren't any customers. I just had a website. And even then, I felt like, wow, this is exciting. Like there's unlimited possibility here. And that's when I had the feeling like, wow, this is actually like something I'm probably meant to be doing because it's very challenging. It's more challenging than any job I've ever had 10 times. And yet I enjoy it so much. So it must be something I am meant to be doing.
So that's what motivated you to keep going even when you didn't get customers in the beginning?
Yeah, exactly. I kind of enjoy that solving challenges and figuring out how to hunt for customers, how to be successful, how to make something work out of thin air that you just kind of have to make work where it's not handed to you. I like that. I like that. I think maybe I thrive on challenge or something, but I think it's an innate skill in a lot of entrepreneurs that I've seen.
Nice. So you said first you were facing challenges, you didn't have that many customers, and now you've come so far, you've scaled your business to seven figures. How did you do that?
Oh my gosh. Um, okay, so first of all, I launch my business. Nothing happens. I make cold calls, I'm emailing people, I'm spamming people. This is my product, please buy my product. Nobody even like calls me back or emails me. I mean, hundreds, like imagine hundreds of rejections. And but remember, this was already after the time that I committed fully. Like I'm going in no matter what. And I made a phone call and I was expecting, like, no, thank you, please don't bother us. But the person picked up on the other line and he said, oh, you also emailed me. And I said, yes. And he said, I am very impressed and I cannot believe you have this product. We've been looking for it and we want shipments of this every single month. And that was like what changed the entire trajectory of that business, because after that customer, then I got a second and a third and a fourth. And it was like, wow, okay, this is actually starting to work. How exciting. So one, if like anyone's getting no's and no's and no's, just know that it only takes one yes to turn everything around.
So just keep persevering, going
Yes,
through.
keep persevering until it happens.
Nice. So how do you keep up with the current trends in technology and marketing?
I am I keep I keep up with growing trends because I am someone you would call an early adopter. So I love jumping onto new things as soon as they come out. I'm not the one who will wait. I want to try them out immediately. And so as soon as, like, for example, the latest, of course, ChatGPT came out, and that was something I tried immediately, and I got, skilled at it, and I just wanted to make sure, like, how can we use it? Can I create a company with it? And I try to keep up with every single tool and tech because I know that that gives us strategic advantages as entrepreneurs to either do something in half the time that I used to be able to do it faster or better, and it gives me more time to spend on more important things. So I love technology and automations.
What was it like when you started your business while juggling multiple roles and responsibilities? You said you came from a corporate job, so it must have been a huge change.
Yes. So as a solopreneur, when you're just starting out, it's just you and you're doing everything. And then everything was chaos and, I was burned out and it was chaotic. And then I hired a business coach. And my business coach taught me how to separate everything. So I almost started treating my company like I was a big company. So now I'm gonna put my marketing hat on. I'm now a marketer. And this is how the marketing person does things. This is the spreadsheet I'm going to use to track everything I do. Okay, I'm done. Now I'm going to put on my finance hat. I have to enter expenses, pay bills, receive customer payments. And everything started to have a system around it in how ways were done instead of just ad hoc. So that was how, as a solopreneur, I was able to scale because when you have the systems, you can actually say, now I want to hire somebody and hand over everything I've been doing for like marketing or administration or a virtual assistant. That was the biggest thing I learned from my business coach that helped me scale.
What was it like hiring and building your team, especially as going from a solopreneur to having more people?
Yeah, I mean, There were tactical things I had to learn, like HR related things, like how do you hire? Now I have somebody who manages HR for me, but at the time I didn't. So how do you do all the legal paperwork to hire somebody? And uh, the other part is how do you train them? So there's a hiring process. How do you choose the right candidate? So you have to have a really clear job description and role for the job. And then once, how do you onboard them to the company? So how do you make sure that they're comfortable with the tasks they have to do? How do you give them feedback that they're on the right track or that it needs improvement? How do you, and then even on top of that, what kind of a leader are you? Like, do you trust your team or are you a micromanager? I used to be a micromanager at first because I was used to doing everything and then I handed it over and I was like wanting to be like, how are you going to do that? And instead of asking how, I don't ask how you're going to do that. I just tell them what the result should be. So this is all I want. And how you do it is completely up to you. These are just the results I'm looking for. It was it was mindset, but also tactics of how to build a team.
How did you get out of the habit of being a micromanager and like handing things over?
So, oh my gosh, it was honestly so being a micromanager, I was a blind spot for me for a while. Like I didn't know even what a micromanager was. I just knew that I liked things done a certain way, and I felt like the way I did them was really good. And so it really is not, it's very negative on the team because, I've been there where I was an employee working for a company. And when you don't have autonomy over and pride in your work, like, hey, I did this and this is the way I think, this is the way I work best. And this is my rules instead of somebody who are watching you all the time. So what actually happened is I had an exit interview of somebody who was leaving, who I used to supervise, and she gave me feedback on the form very honestly, which I really appreciated. And I read that and I was like, wow, she's really right. Like I really overmanage, everything. So I learned from that and I started practicing. And now it's just second nature. Like I would never think to try to overmanage somebody's job.
So, what skills do you believe are essential for running a successful business?
Yeah, so the skills necessary for running a successful business are definitely being able to see things that others can't. So if you can come up with a strategy that's going to be a unique to your market, that will give you an advantage. So thinking outside the box, because everybody thinks in the same box. So if you can have the ability um, to think outside of the norms, you'll come up with ideas that will put you at a strategic advantage. Also, a lot is mindset. The person who does not give up is the person who's going to persevere and succeed in the end. So I would say definitely the mindset is really important.
How, sorry, your, how did you build that mindset?
The mindset of entrepreneurship, well, I think some of it, we always wonder like, are entrepreneurs born entrepreneurs or are they just like not anybody can be an entrepreneur? And I always wonder that. But lately, I've been really thinking, giving it a lot of thought. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs that never thought they were entrepreneurs can become one. So when I was younger, I never did anything entrepreneurial. In fact, I was an introvert. I was quiet. I was more of a dreamer than like a doer. And I was not proactive. I was more of a follower. Like tell me what to do and I'll do it. And only later in life did I start really developing those traits. And a lot of them developed while I was running my business. So I went into my business, without leadership skills, without a lot of the entrepreneurial traits that make you successful and learn them sort of on the job.
So it must have been a hard transition from like being an introvert to leadership, or is it actually not that hard? And how did you manage like
Yeah.
shifting?
I mean, one really interesting thing about in being an introvert is we have, in our society, we really follow a lot of leaders that are very charismatic and extroverted, which is a great trait, right? It can be very inspirational. But also, there's a different type of leader, which is an introverted leader, and they have different skill sets that resonate with different people. So, like an introverted leader may be more easily approachable for the people that follow them. They may be less intimidating. They listen better, possibly. Sometimes they have more empathy because they're able to, instead of the big picture, they go and look at the details. So that it's just differences in leadership, but both can be excellent leaders, both types of people.
Okay, so you also mentioned thinking outside of the box. So how do you do that? How do you find that strategic advantage and think outside of boundaries?
I know it's honestly it's by reading. So finding the strategic advantage is and thinking outside the box is by reading big thinkers and people who already think outside the box because they challenge my thinking. One author is Naval Ravikant, who talks about a lot of mental models to use for thinking that have been incredibly useful. There's a book written about him called The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. I think that's the call, but I don't remember exactly the book. But there's other books. Oh, I love reading biographies or autobiographies. Like one of the best books that taught me how to think differently was the autobiography of the CEO of Zappos, Tony Hsieh, and it's called Delivering Happiness. And he was the first company who, when nobody was selling anything online, he started selling shoes online, things that you can't even try on. So people thought they were crazy selling shoes when you can't even pay online. You had to send in checks to pay. It was just so innovative and revolutionary at the time. And people like that think differently, and reading stories or talking to them, you absorb that into your own thinking.
What advice do you have for aspiring entrepreneurs to improve their mindset? Yeah, you already mentioned that by reading they could think outside of the box, but what about mindset?
Yeah, mindset. I think self-awareness is key because when you notice your own thoughts and you notice yourself, you catch yourself thinking negatively, or you want to do something and a voice in your head says, well, that's never going to work. That's the time where I think we have to be our biggest teacher by catching ourselves and saying, okay, that mindset is not somebody's successful mindset. Would, a person you look up to, you say, would they think this way? Probably not. And so I also feel like being in groups of peers, like-minded individuals, like the Entrepreneurs Organization, like the Young Founders Women's event. These are places where people challenge each other and think big, to think differently and think bigger than they do.
Thank you. So, during your time as an entrepreneur, how have you changed and what are some valuable lessons that you've learned along the way?
Wow. I have, when I first started out, I was, gosh, yeah, when I first started out entrepreneurship, I didn't know how to do things. So I I didn't have anything to rely on. And then what I started noticing is that the successful entrepreneurs had something I didn't. They had a network. And I got a mentor, and I spoke to that mentor and I said, I want to grow my business. I have these goals and these goals. And he basically said to me, I just want you to do one thing. Forget everything else. Just do one thing. Go home, take out a piece of paper and write down the 100 people that you want to be like or you want to meet in your lifetime, the people you look up to. And then add people that are also kind of accessible, like you can be introduced to them, or they are somewhat maybe in your second circle. So they're not like celebrities where you will never meet them. And keep making sure that you meet them every month or every week. Reach out to one new person and meet with them for coffee or talk to them on the phone and see what they need. Because when I was younger and I had no contacts and no resources, people who are already have contacts and resources, they can refer you to places, they have opportunities for you, they have, they have people they can introduce you to. So for me, the networking was the biggest deal in developing myself as an entrepreneur.
Must have been kind of hard as an introvert as well. I mean, going out, reaching so many people. Was there any fear in your mind, or did you have to overcome that?
Yes, huge. Yes, um, what's interesting about fear is when I should say, when I really want something, I'm able to overcome the fear. So it's like, okay, I really want to reach this goal. I want to get customers, grow my business. Then I don't mind doing cold calling because yeah, the fear is there, but like I'm determined. And the same with outreach. I really felt like I wanted to meet people, and there's now introvert friendly ways to reach out to people, like, on LinkedIn, you send a message, or, you don't always have to approach people in person anymore. So you can do it more via written things in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, it's great how you overcame that fear and got past that since you were so determined. That's great. If you could go back in time, is there anything you would do differently about your business journey?
I, if I could go back in time and do anything differently, I would join a group like the Entrepreneurs Organization much earlier, like right away, because that being around other people that have the same mindset made, like before I joined, I was growing like this, and when I joined, it was like this. So just that network made all I would join like right away, where any kind of network for business owners that I can, and immerse myself in that. Because I struggled too long on my own trying to figure it out all out. And all the resources were already there in groups for people who have already done it. So you don't have to make all the mistakes on your own. You're like, oh, I just did that. Let me explain how you do that. And then, you have a roadmap from somebody successful.
Your journey is really remarkable, Noemi, and I found your insights very valuable. What's one thing you wished someone had told you about entrepreneurship when you were starting out?
That it's going to be the hardest thing you ever do, but you will grow as a result. And all the goals you create as an entrepreneur are going to create you into the person that can achieve those bigger things. So it's sort of like an inner journey of entrepreneurship as well, that happens on the road to success.
So it makes you a better person as well.
It does, much stronger person.
Well, it's been an honor and a pleasure to speak with you today. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.